Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Food for Thought. Today is the second episode and we are going to discuss three things again. First is the national education policy, second is a key defense update, and third is a trivia about the India-Nepal relations. Now coming to the first point, the national education policy. We know a report has been submitted by a panel headed by the past ISRO chief, Mr. K. Kasturirangan, and the national education policy has been drafted based on that. I would give one political update first and then move on to the policy details. The political update is the HRD minister will now be called as Education Minister in India. Now moving on to the details. Before we go into the changes that this policy suggests, we look into five problems or five complaints that we have about our education system. First is, how much of job readiness do we have once we graduate, and how much of practical knowledge do we gain out of our graduation or education system? Most of us would say minimal. The second complaint that we have is, how much of our syllabus that we read is actually applied to the jobs? Again, people would argue that happens minimally. The third complaint that we have is, we can't have a mix of subjects. For example, in our higher education, for example, I love chemistry and biology, but I hate maths and physics. I cannot choose chemistry, biology, political science, and economics. That rigidity still existed. The fourth complaint that we have is, there's one exam at the end of the year and it's like you have to perform on that day. No matter how much you study, if you don't perform on that day, your entire effort goes for a waste. Now, I think this is a bit unfair. What if someone falls sick on that day and that person might have put in 10 times more effort for the entire year, or God forbid something happens to him on that day and he's not mentally ready? So this one exam at the end of the year is really like a pressure situation for every student. The fifth complaint that we have is, most of the students who come from lower middle class backgrounds who go to government schools, they are not able to solve very basic mathematical problems or not able to read sentences till class 3 or 4. Why is this? Why does this happen in our society? So now we come to the changes suggested by the NEP. The first change is, schools now have the option of 2 exams a year. So that pressure situation is somewhat eased. Now you have at least 2 exams and you have the weightage distributed. So that is addressed somewhat. The second change that has come in is, now you can mix and match subjects. For example, you can opt for chemistry, biology, and say economics and political science in your higher education. The third change that has come up is a 4-year undergrad program wherein the last year is dedicated to research, and if you complete those 4 years, you can directly move on to PhD or furthering your research. That actually undermines the master's degree a bit. So I'd leave it to you to decide whether this is a good policy or a good change or a bad one. The fourth change that has come up is, the schools will have the option of teaching all its students till class 5 in the mother tongue, or the schools can also opt for English. Now this is a very controversial topic. You can see a chart on top which shows, on the y-axis it has the gross national income and the x-axis shows the EFEPI or the English Proficiency Index. So the graph points out that, okay, if a country knows more of English, it's earning more. So it looks like if a country focuses on English, eventually its population will earn more. So this policy actually brings in a change. Now, We can see that India is an outlier here. Although India learns a lot of English, but still its per capita income is quite low. Why is this? Is this the population, or is this a colonial mindset that we are under, and we emphasize too much on English but it's not translating into numbers? That's a question that we need to think about. This teaching the children till class 5 on their mother tongue has one advantage. Now typically in today's India, what happens is when a child is at home, his mother says, okay, that's doodh, and when they speak in Hindi, they refer to milk as doodh. But when he or she goes to the school, the teacher says, no, you have to say this is milk. So he gets a bit confused, he or she gets a bit confused, and the ability to question somewhat comes down. Scientifically, it has been seen that children learn more when they learn in their mother tongue in the very initial years. Later, of course, you can emphasize on English and learn English. Another counterpoint to the earlier graph is the top countries with per capita GDP, Switzerland, Norway, Denmark, they all use their mother tongue as mass languages. For example, Switzerland uses German and French, Norway uses Norwegian, Denmark uses Danish, and in those countries the per capita GDP is very high. So with this, and one more point is the countries at the bottom of per capita GDP, the African countries, they again use European languages or English for mass languages. Now I would leave this point here and let you decide whether this change is a good one or a bad one. The fifth change that this policy suggests is, today we have so many regulators, AICTE, UGC, NCTE. This policy says going forward we will have just one regulator, a consolidation of regulators. Moving ahead, the sixth change, and this in my opinion is an interesting one, talks about right to education. Now in today's India, the right to education starts at 5 and it ends at 14. So that means children from age of 5 to 14 are supported by the government, monetarily supported, government schools and all. So this NEP says that will increase, and that will start at age 3 and it will go until age 18. So that means the government will now start investing in nursery education. So remember that point, and obviously support till +2, that has also increased. So you remember that point that we said earlier, that children from middle class backgrounds, they were not able to solve problems and till class 3, 2, 3, 4. So that will be addressed somehow by this, because the government is starting nursery education and bringing that under the umbrella. My best guess is the midday meal will also be included, so that's another advantage. Now I would like to mention two very ambitious points here. Now we'll have to see how the government plans to implement it, because they're very ambitious. First is, the government says that they have to increase the investment in education from 6%, from 4.3% of GDP to 6% of GDP. That is a very ambitious target for the government. And the second one is increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education from 26.3% to 50%. Now in the chart above we can see there are a lot of states which are below the Indian national average. For example, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, they are below 26.3%. So these states have to do a lot to achieve that 50% mark. Now we move on to our second update, the defense update. Now today we saw an announcement that 101 defense equipments cannot be imported anymore. So they have to be produced in India. Those include light machine guns, bulletproof jackets, ballistic helmets. This is a very good opportunity for the indigenous developers, and if some of us are investors, we can look into this and devise our plans and look at this industry. It's a very good option because India will do a lot of defense spending in the coming years. Now coming to the last topic, which is a trivia about the India-Nepal relations. Today, on a positive note, Although India and Nepal had some frictions in the recent past, including Nepal sending a new map to the United Nations, Indian Army has given 10 ventilators to the Nepalese army to fight COVID together. This is a very positive note, and today we hope that India-Nepal relations take a turn for the better and we restart our good relations in the coming time. Thank you for watching. Today we like to end here. Good night. Bye bye.